So far, we've primarily looked at distributing leads based on time rather than actual workloads. So some people work faster, and in combination with all leads not being equal, you might want to more tightly control the mix of leads people are actively working on at any one time. Now, as a manager, one of your tasks is to distribute net new leads evenly among your team members, giving each person an equal number to work on each day. However, as is often the case, some team members will work their leads much faster than others. Some leads are more valuable and some will take longer to work than others, resulting in the situation depicted on the left-hand side of the slide. So an uneven spread of work. In this case, you might want to adjust your approach to distribution. Instead of distributing leads just based on time, you may want to consider the actual workload of each rep and the mix of different value or complexity you'd like each rep to be working on. To achieve this, you could do three things. Firstly, prioritize leads based on their potential value and complexity. Secondly, define the ideal mix of leads a rep should work on at capacity. And lastly, monitor reps' workload mix and top them up appropriately once they have capacity. So by controlling the mix of leads that each team member is actively working on, you can help ensure that everyone is working at their optimal capacity and that the most valuable leads are being prioritized, as shown on the right-hand side of the slide. So let me hand you back to Toms for one last time to run you through our criteria and active capping options. Toms.
Thank you, Faisal. So how can DE help here? We can use criteria and active caps. Criteria caps allow for a cap to be placed on a distributor that limits how many records it will assign to users based on criteria rather than the time period. Active caps are based on the number of active leads a team member owns or the total value of a field. The active cap will stop assignments to a team member once their active count reaches the cap. So let's see how to set this up in DE.
First, let's look at an active cap. You can use an active cap if you only care about the workload of the rep and not specifically what type of leads they're working on. The first step is to set up an active cap definition. You can do this in the team settings here. Select the field you want to use for active status. In my example, I'll use the lead status field, and then select the active status value. I'll use assign in my example. This means that when a rep has a lead assigned to them and the lead is in the assigned status, this is a lead that they're actively working on. When they finish their work, they're expected to move it to another status, for example, contacted. This would then mean that they have capacity for another new lead. You can also balance the active cap by value instead of record count down here. For example, you could use deal value and set it to 100,000. So that means a rep can only work on the number of leads where the total lead value does not exceed 100,000. Let's look at how to set up the active cap itself. Let's first save this. And as before, we'll find our caps under the waiting and caps menu and team level caps, and we will enable them. So in the add period button here, from this dropdown, we can select active cap. And when we hover over the row here, we edit it and we set it to 10 in my example. And let's add it. This means that a rep can only work on 10 active leads at once. And if they fall under this number, DE will top them up. That is, of course, if there are any leads available. And let's not forget to save it. We also have criteria caps. With this type of cap, you can be more specific as to what different types of records the rep should be working on at the same time. So let's use my earlier hot, warm, and cold leads example. Let's say that instead of controlling their full workload, we want to control the amount of hot and warm leads the rep can have with them at any one time. So we'll switch to distributor level settings. We'll find the hot leads distributor. We'll enable the distributor level cap. And in the drop down here, we'll find the criteria-based cap and we'll set it to 3. So this criteria-based cap is based on distributor filters. So this means that the cap will count how many records the user owns, matching the filters in these distributors. So when a new hot lead becomes available, it will only be distributed to an individual that has fewer than 3 hot leads with them at that point. And let's save it.
So what we just saw were 2 different types of caps to control workloads. Active cap allows you to control workload as a whole. For example, allowing a rep to be working on a maximum of 10 leads at the same time, regardless of what type of lead that is. Criteria cap allows you to be more specific. For example, you may want your rep to be working on a maximum of 3 hot leads, as we saw in my example, at the same time, while the rest of their workload consists of other types of leads. These caps will help you ensure that every rep has their optimal workload, as we can see on the right side of the slide.